Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Winecast. With previous casts on Grenache and Syrah completed, I thought it might be time for a cast on the least well-known and most underappreciated member of the GSM family, Mourvèdre, or Monastrell. Mourvèdre is the M in GSM, but it has a full and vibrant life apart from its partnership with Syrah and Grenache, and it's often made as a single varietal, or at least as the key grape driving a number of wines. So there's a lot to learn about this grape, and it definitely repays the effort. Though it's better known by its French name Mourvèdre, it was a Spanish grape before the French got a hold of it, and it's known there as Monastrell or Mataro. The best guess currently is that it was brought to Spain around 2,500 years ago by Phoenician traders who planted it along the south and east coasts of Iberia. Though a lot of people haven't heard of it either by its French or Spanish name, Mourvèdre is a widely planted grape, and most recently available data from 2010 make it the 14th most planted varietal in the world, which is down a bit over the previous 2 decades where it sat at 12th in 2000 and 9th in 1990. By a large majority, most of the world's Mourvèdre Monastrell is planted in Spain, currently about 58,000 hectares or around 143,000 acres, concentrated in several parts of Spain. Though there's a lot of this grape in Spain, there used to be much more, with Spanish plantings of the grape losing ground over the last few decades to so-called international varieties like Cabernet Sauvignon. By contrast, in France, the country with the second greatest number of plantings in the world, Mourvèdre has been on the grow, and it's most likely to be found in the Languedoc-Roussillon on the French side of the Pyrenees and farther east in the southern Rhône and Provence. Plantings here are still modest compared to Spain, though, with only about 10,000 hectares or 24,700 acres, a little less than a sixth of Spain's total acreage. Much smaller plantings in Australia, the United States, and South Africa round out the top 5 countries for Mourvèdre Monastrell. Thanks to the convoluted history of viticulture in the world, this grape, like most grapes, has dozens of synonyms. But we can be grateful that the 3 major synonyms for this grape all begin with M. As we've already covered, in Spain the grape is primarily known as Monastrell, and primarily here means by a very wide margin. You may occasionally see it on a label as Mataro, but that will be mostly on wines produced in Catalonia in northeastern Spain, where that name originates, or in Portugal, where the grape is also grown. In France, of course, it's Mourvèdre, and it shares both of these names in the U.S., though its official name, according to the Alcohol, Tobacco, Tax, and Trade Bureau, or the TTB, is Mourvèdre, and Mataro, written without the final accent and stressed on the next to last and not the last syllable, is dying out as an identifier, though you will still see it, particularly among California producers that have been making it for a while. In Australia, Mataro is the standard designation, but some newer producers are opting to use the French term. And Mourvèdre seems to be the norm in South Africa. Mourvèdre does well in warm, sunny climates, particularly those with relatively low humidity, since this grape is particularly susceptible to fungal diseases. This characteristic has made it a popular player in the wine industries of countries like Tunisia and Cyprus, where, though the plantings are small, they make up a relatively large percentage of total grapes planted. This love of a warm, sunny climate also helps Mourvèdre get very ripe and sweet, which leads to wines that tend toward the high end of the alcohol spectrum. Mourvèdre has a thick skin, and wines made from it tend to be high in tannin. Acidity hangs around medium to medium-high. Fruit-wise, look for blackberry, cherry, and plum, which can sometimes express as very ripe and intense, so more like prune. On the savory end, black pepper is a signature descriptor. And, especially when young, Mourvèdre can have an unmistakable, barnyardy funkiness. This funk mellows with age, and with age also comes more pronounced savory notes like leather, baking spices, and cured meat. Mourvèdre doesn't take on oak characteristics as easily as many other varietals do, so any oak treatment tends to be a neutral oak and is more about giving the wine an environment to age in than it is about imparting flavors and aromas. If you want to try a varietal Mourvèdre, or at least something where Mourvèdre is firmly behind the wheel, start with the Jumilla from Spain, which must be at least 85% Monastrell for either reds or rosés. And also consider checking out wines from the neighboring DOs of Yecla and Buyas. These require only 60% Monastrell in their reds or rosés, but many producers use substantially more. Bandol in France only requires 50% Mourvèdre for its reds and pinks, but like its Spanish cousins, producers in this AOC usually blend in quite a bit more. Rosés from Bandol are famous for their ability to age and are a bit better known than the reds, but Bandols in both styles are a must-try for coming to appreciate this grape, as are the wines mentioned from Spain. And when choosing a Bandol to try, make an effort to sample something from Domaine Tempier, a benchmark producer within the region. There are only a little over 1,000 acres planted to Mourvèdre in the U.S., and not all of that goes to single varietal production. But there are some great Mourvèdres available for sampling, primarily in California and Washington state. And when looking for American Mourvèdre, remember that it may appear under the name Mataro, especially in California. Like Grenache, though, you shouldn't underappreciate Mourvèdre's gifts as a blending partner. It's an important but still supplementary grape in Côte du Rhône wines, and it shares main grape status with other grapes in Châteauneuf, Lirac, and in the rosés of Tavel. However, in all of these cases, you'll have to do some research to determine which wines foreground Mourvèdre and which ones don't. Mourvèdre appears very consistently, though usually not as the grape with the biggest share of the blend, in wines labeled either GSM or Rhône-styled blends from Australia, California, and Washington. But Mourvèdre really is an effective blender that plays well with lots of grapes, so don't just look for it to accompany Grenache and Syrah, but look for it with grapes like Zinfandel, Petit Syrah, and Carignan, as well as others, as in this remarkable blend from California by the folks at Ridge Vineyards in Sonoma County, who've been making stuff with Mataro or Mourvèdre for quite a while. Thanks for joining me for another Winecast. As always, I hope this was both informative and enjoyable, and if it was, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I always love to hear from my listeners, whether they're subscribers or not, in the comments. If you're on Instagram, I hope you'll follow me on that platform at Unknown Winecaster Drinks Wine, and I hope we can connect there as well. I'm your host, the Unknown Winecaster, and I'm out. Enjoy the grape, but always enjoy it responsibly.